Chris and Noel, welcome to a special Fearless in Devotion. It's on Paul Mullin. The one thing that you didn't want to happen in pre-season, i.e. Mullin gets taken out and he's out for a couple of weeks. Well, yeah, of course that happened. And me and Liam in matching kits, we'll discuss this briefly. First off, just an apology on my end because it's just hit 8 o'clock here in Philadelphia. And I'm a little bit disheveled because I was out last night watching the match, but not as dishevelled as Paul must be feeling this morning. Let's quickly look at the incident. Just going to pop it on.
Off goes Paul Mullin, and Mullin got there just ahead of Bishop, and the referee has gone to his pocket for a yellow card.
Does the goalkeeper really need to be out there? Had that been a Premier League game or any competitive game, I think that's a sending off.
The ultimate hero of this current Wrexham team is led unsteadily from the field.
Oh, Liam, what's your first sort of reaction when you see that?
Well, I woke up at about, something like 6:30 this morning. Got up early with my lad. First thing I usually do, quick flick on the phone. Paul Mullin's got a puncture lung. I thought it was someone winding me up, to be honest. And then when I saw it, I just thought, Jesus Christ, that is... There's that argument over malice or clumsy. I think it looks more clumsy to me, but it doesn't take away the impact. You see how hard he goes into his side, and oh God, it's just, like you say, it's just the one person you didn't want to get injured on the eve of the season. And yeah, it's painful just watching it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like you, I don't think it's malice. I think it's a bad challenge because if you come herring out your goal like that, you've got to take the ball. He got nowhere near the ball. He wasn't really looking at the ball. He sort of positioned his body to save himself when he came into. He knew he was going to hit the man. Keepers are much bigger than the likes of Paul. Unfortunately, they're just sturdier fellas. And the other thing I thought, right, Mullin's quite clever at stuff like this, so he will stay down and he'll give the referee something to think about. He'll roll around a little bit. But then he stayed down for a little bit too long. And as soon as I saw the stretcher and the oxygen, at first I said to the lads in the pub, I reckon it was a cracked rib. But then I thought maybe it was a collapsed lung. And I think that's the same, isn't it? Punctured, collapsed. We were just saying, well, he's been taken to hospital as a precaution. You know what Mullin's like. He barely misses games through injury. He'll be back. But yeah, the prognosis isn't really that good, is it? Do you know much about a punctured lung? I mean, when you were looking at teletext for like injuries, you always had like Brian Robson's out, brackets, groin injury. You never had punctured lung, did you?
No, I've consulted my good friend Dr. Nick Riviera, aka Google, who suggests it could be 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the severity. Now, I think Parkinson used the words small puncture in the aftermath, which hopefully bodes well. I think the one complication I didn't really even think of is that he's not going to be able to fly for 2 weeks, apparently, because of the pressurized cabin and whatnot. I don't think there's many boats that sail between the UK and the US now, so hopefully it'll be on the short end of the scale. But whatever way you look at it, you're potentially looking at up to 2 months without Paul Mullin, aren't you? I think realistically, which is just a massive. Whatever way you look at it, it's a massive kick in the balls.
Yeah, what a kick in the chest that is. I mean, he can't. Just how will he get back? He's going to have to stay in the States for a bit, is he? I mean, the thing is, I don't even think he could fly over with the rest of the squad to Philly, could he?
So, no, I wouldn't imagine.
Even though it's more of a short hop, it's still 3 or 4 hours. He's going to have to stay. He's going to have to stay in California, or what?
Yeah.
I mean, there's worse places to be stranded. I'll be honest. But he's already been out for a couple of weeks, not seeing his family. I mean, we know how attached he is to his kids. So it's a tough one for Paul. I'll be honest. It's what we do next, Liam. I think. Look, you're Phil Parkinson. He's obviously annoyed. What did he exactly say last night?
So let's have a look here. I've got one of the articles up as we speak. Now, there's been varying versions of this quote shared, with some people claiming that he's told, I believe Nathan Bishop is the lad's name.
Yeah.
United keeper. Supposedly, it makes him sound like a bit of a mafia boss that he's apparently told him to stay out of Wrexham. Now, I don't know about you, but
Wrexham.
yeah, yeah. Otherwise, who knows what will happen? You know, accidents will happen. So Hugo says, I'm fuming about it. Got to be honest, it was a clumsy, reckless challenge in a pre-season game. Not happy with it at all. We've just got a call from the hospital to say, as I mentioned before, there's a small puncture in his lung. Yeah, here's the actual quote. And I don't think, to me, it doesn't sound as malicious as portrayed. It just says, I haven't seen the goalie. He's probably best steering clear of us for the time being because we're not very happy. I mean, that's half joking, isn't it? I mean,
that's not a death threat, Liam. I'll be honest. I've had much worse death threats even this morning.
Well, exactly, haven't we? I mean, I do wonder if it's. Do you think the Man United PR machine's kicking in a bit there? Because I saw a load of journalists based with United almost simultaneously posting out a tweet to the effect that United aren't happy with Phil Parkinson's incendiary comments. I mean, of course, Man United have never had a manager who shoots from the hip and gives quotes which are a bit fiery, have they? So,
yeah, that's changing the narrative a little bit, I think, because people are waking up and they're looking at what should be a pre-season friendly, a showpiece pre-season friendly, is being dominated by United's keeper taking out the star striker Hollywood Paul Mullin, a documentary hero, with a bad challenge. Match overall, Liam, have you seen the highlights of the goals?
Yeah, I've seen the highlights. I'll be honest, I wasn't sure what to expect when I saw this game, because I know the Chelsea game was a bit more, they had a couple of first team players in there, but I thought United might give us a tough game, and I wasn't entirely expecting to wake up to a 3-1 win. So before I saw the Mullin injury, that was a nice little surprise. Good to see the likes of, I think Mendy was involved with one of the goals, wasn't he? Put a cross in. Elliot Lee looking decent, and I thought
he's had a great pre-season with Lee.
Exactly, yeah, and I thought Sam Dolby looked quite dangerous as well, which I won't fast forward to, but perhaps there's some positive there. I thought last season he didn't. I don't know how many starts he had exactly, but overall I thought his contribution was decent for the game time that he had. So maybe is that a little bit of hope that we can take from it? Do you think? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's always hope. The headlines are, if you're waking up, it's Wrexham 3, Man United 1. We've beaten Man United. Now I've seen Russell Crowe's retweeted that, and to a lot of people, that's a brilliant result, and it carries on the Wrexham sort of story a little bit. Now, yeah, okay, obviously we've lost Paul Mullin. Obviously it was more a reserve Man United side, but we were worried about this pre-season. Was it a bit too far? Was it a bit too long? Is it really going to prepare us for the rigors of League Two? But if you think about it, Chelsea, they did have first team players. It was our first game of this proper game of the season. They pulled us apart. They scored early. They scored at the right times. They were clinical. Now against LA Galaxy 2, or Los Dos, as it's just imprinted on my mind, thanks to the commentator. They put together a good performance. Against Man United, they put together a better performance. Actually, United were really knocking it about well until the injury from Mullin, and I think it fired Wrexham up a little bit. And I think they really got in United's faces. They couldn't deal with a long ball. They couldn't deal with Tozer's throw. That's where one of the goals came from. I think we sort of really put in a professional, workmanlike performance, and it will actually stand those United players in good stead, because there will be a lot of times in the Premier 2 campaign that they'll come up against the likes of Tozer and Oli Palmer, and I think they gave him a bit of a battering. So I'm quietly happy with our pre-season preparations now, and I think we can finish it off with another win against Philly Union 2, game which I'll be going to on Friday. And Mullin aside, it's good fitness and they've got morale boosting wins. But the dark shadow and why we're doing this little vid is Mullin's injured. So come on, you're Phil Parkinson. What are you going to do?
So dare I say it, but I think some of the reactions been bordering on the hysterical, shall we say. I don't think we've got a bad selection of strikers going into the new season, but let's not make any bones about it. We just lost a man who scored, how many goals was it? 45, 46 last season in all competitions. So
talisman. Easy talisman.
Exactly. So at the same time as I'm trying not to get too hysterical about it, it's a massive blow. So, some people have suggested things like, well, do you bring Jake Bickerstaff over to get involved from home? My only observation there is, I can't see a young lad being thrown into the mix to try and take Paul Mullin's place. It's a lot of pressure on him. It's a lot of pressure on Parky. The most natural choice, if we were to just go as we are, probably Billy Waters, I would say. But I haven't had anywhere near enough time to assess what he's like for us overall. He played for most of yesterday, did he?
Yeah, he's quick. He's very quick.
Yeah.
But again, it's hard because he's experienced, and he and Palmer know a little bit of tricks that those United defence, Johnny Evans apart, probably didn't. The proof of the pudding is how he comes up against the League Two defence, the likes of MK Dons. I mean, he in League Two he never set the world alight at Barrow. That doesn't mean in a better team he can't. And Parky does his homework on all these sort of players. So yeah, I think your first sort of go-to for the mix is Palmer and Waters. You've got the big man hold up. You've got the littler man, the more mobile forward. Dolby. The good thing with Dolby is he adapts. He adapts to anything that you throw at him. He came in last season as a bit part player, only had 8 or 9 minutes to really make an impact, and he learned how to make an impact. And when he started, you could tell that there's a real good all-round player there. He's not as much as a target man as Palmer. He is mobile. He is skillful. He can do little 1-2s and little play around the box. I mean, if you want to go more of a dogs of war attack, you probably go Dolby and Palmer. Now, the caveat to that is, can Palmer play all these games so quickly? 90 minutes, probably not. So who are you going to replace Palmer with? Then Dolby's your more natural replacement there. So yeah, I think they are light. Look, Parky hasn't used the loan system yet. He at Bradford, his other clubs, he did use it by bringing in good Premier League talent and showcasing them. Now, I think it was hard for him to do it last season because I don't think your top clubs want to lend to someone in the conference. But Wrexham is a different proposition now. It's in League Two. It's also quite high profile. It's playing in front of packed crowds. You sort of think, would you like your talented youngster to go there and experience a bit of pressure, a bit of expectation? And I think you would have that at Wrexham now. So I wouldn't rule out in making a loan move for someone.
Now, this is interesting, actually, because quite timely, there was around a 23-minute interview with Parky was shared, I think, yesterday in the build-up to the United game. And apparently he's actually said in it that he doesn't want to use the loan system, which I must admit, I'm quite surprised at the reticence. But the flip side to it is someone saying, he's trying to build quality within his own squad.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fine. But when you've got someone like Mullin out for a couple of months, can you just nip in and get a talented Premier League youngster? So you don't what you don't want is you bring in a top level player, and then they're on the bench because Mullin's back. That sort of doesn't help the system either. So yeah, I'd say you can never discount using the loan system, especially on something as specific as this. But I understand Parky saying he wants to build a squad because he's building something for the next 3 or 4 years, not for this season. But at the moment, we need someone to get us through the next 2 or 3 months, and that's how long I think Mullin will be out. It's also a shame that he'll probably miss any potential call up for the Wales team when they play Gibraltar. But yeah, that's the last thing on my mind, I'll be honest.
Yeah, circumstances have definitely changed, even though that interview is probably only 24 hours old. This is a very significant injury, isn't it? So I'd imagine all options are being explored. Interesting to see last night, there was a journalist whose name escapes me off the top of my head, but he was the same person who's been talking about us being linked with Matty Virtue at Blackpool. He's suggested that we're looking, even before all this, we were looking at James Norwood, formerly of Tranmere, I think Ipswich, and currently at Barnsley.
Is he an out-and-out striker, Liam? Or can he play that role?
It's an interesting question. Well, he certainly kept Mullin out of the team when he was at Tranmere, which would suggest that he can play that role. I mean, my one thought on it was, I think he's 32, bordering on 33. Could you rely on him to have the same work rate as Paul Mullin? It's a difficult question because we haven't. I'll be honest, I haven't particularly seen him play a great deal, but I think in terms of the quality of the player, he's clearly highly rated. The one thing I would say though is, say you were someone like Barnsley and you were negotiating a price, would it have just increased significantly?
Yeah, and I think it would. Going back to the loan system, United owe us. I know we're best of enemies at the moment, but give us that hug, Hill. I mean, Norwood's an interesting one. If we're already in for him, I would imagine we've already made contact, and maybe the price wouldn't change that much. You can't sort of come back and say, "Oh, I'll have pop an extra 50 grand on that due to a punctured lung." You're right. At Tranmere, ironically, Mullin couldn't get into the side because Norwood was so good. I think they're good pals. I think that's an option, and due to his age, it's someone who it's going back to what Parky did a lot last season, or the season before, when he was building a squad to get out of the conference, and he sort of went for experienced players the wrong side of 30, but he knew who could get you out of the league. And I think Norwood again fits into that sort of category. He's a player with enough quality to definitely get you out of League Two. So on one hand he has to build, but on the other hand he has to be pragmatic about what he needs at that right time to get us out of that specific decision. So I wouldn't be averse to Norwood coming in. It would be his last sort of big payday. But he's still playing at League One level, high up. Barnsley were in the playoffs last season, so he's definitely still got his quality there.
And your mate Andy Dallas has just gone to Barnsley, funny enough. So that's one to chalk off.
Life's rich tapestry, the merry-go-round. I can't sing that. Is there a Tony Dynasty we could call for? And I'll have a theme tune for that. Right, I think that's it really. I think I need to go back to bed and maybe wake up and it's not happened.
I think the key message from me is, I can generally be a bit pessimistic in life, but I'm relatively relaxed about it. It happens. It would, I saw someone saying, "Oh, it wouldn't have happened if we were in the US." I can remember Neil Ashton getting knocked out and taken to the mile by ambulance at Kevin Druids in pre-season. So it does happen. We're not a club that's short of resources exactly. So let's just try and keep things in perspective, and just see how things play out over the next, probably looking at week and a half, aren't we now, before new season fast upon us.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 4 options up front already in Palmer, Dolby, Waters, and Bickerstaff. Elliot Lee can play up there, and you could bring Jordan Davis in. So that there's enough sort of wriggle room there. I would expect us to bring someone in, probably permanently, but don't discount the loan, Parky. I think we will bring someone in and it could be a more of a short-term option just to cover us for this. But put Mullin aside, it's been a good pre-season after the Chelsea loss. I think we're in a a good space. The facilities out here are fantastic for fitness, and they've been drilling them quite hard. So, not all is lost. It was always going to take us a bit of time to adapt to League Two after spending so long in the conference, and this may have made it a little bit more of a painful transition. But as you say, that we've got enough resources either at the club or to bring someone in to negate the loss of Mullin. So even though this is a special emergency pod, he's not dead. He will be fine. If anyone's got a tanker coming across the Atlantic, do you need a cabin lad? Because Paul will jump on that, and we'll get him back to the UK.
Yeah. And can we just say that this is all Tim's fault, because he's currently, as we speak, getting a tattoo of Paul Mullin, apparently, so we're led to believe. So if that's not a jinx, I don't know what is.
I am more than interested to see what Tim's Paul Mullin tattoo is. I have no idea. What can we do? Pray for Mullin. I think there's someone said in our WhatsApp group, let's have a big picture on the leader of Paul Mullin's chest, and we'll all put our hands on it and pray for him like David Beckham's metatarsal. So make that happen, boys.
Yeah, let's get on the phone to Yuri Geller.
Right. Thanks for listening.
Cheers.